Hi everyone, my name is Jeremy Dalton. It's a pleasure to be here. Welcome to Unlimited Realities, and this is the first session, I believe, of the day. I hope you enjoy it. So I take care of the virtual reality and augmented reality team at PwC UK, and I'm also the author of a book called Reality Check: How Immersive Technologies Can Transform Your Business. And this is all about using VR and AR within a business context and showing you the value that can come from these technologies in that world. So firstly, the year of virtual reality has been a long time coming. I've been collecting these news articles for many years now, since 2014. And as you can see, the same sentiment gets brought out every single year. Will this be the year that virtual reality goes mainstream? I didn't actually find anything for 2021, which means maybe people are finally wisening up to the fact that the year of VR is a bit of a ridiculous concept in the first place. There was no year of the smartphone, there was no year of the internet, year of the telephone, microwave, or any other technology like that. And there's no reason to believe that there will be a year of VR either. That's not to say, however, that virtual reality won't become mainstream. So why is VR not mainstream yet? If there's been a lot of impatience in the world about this technology, there's been a lot of analyst predictions saying that there's going to be mainstream adoption at X date or Y date. There's going to be so many millions of units sold and so on. But future predictions are very hard to get right. Nobody's got a crystal ball. So what I did while researching to write Reality Check is I had a look at the last 100 years of technology adoptions to understand how long has it taken us to really get to grips and adopt other technologies. To do that, the first thing you have to do is define what you mean by mainstream adoption. Now, the exact point at which you define it is up to you. The most important thing is that you are consistent with that definition when you analyze all of these different technologies. So I took a theory from Geoffrey Moore, who in turn took the theory from the diffusion of innovations and built on it. But some of you may notice this curve. This describes how technologies are adopted throughout their life cycle, initially in the early market by the first 2.5% of innovators, and then by the next 13.5% of early adopters. And this early market represents the type of people, many of whom are probably watching this right now, who are very keen on emerging technologies. It's maybe part of their identity if you're on the 2.5% innovator level, and you're ultimately excited about getting a handle on those technologies and using it in the early stages, even when there may be a few bugs to figure out. The user experience may not quite be there. The applications may not be mature yet, but that doesn't really matter to the innovators and the early adopters. Once you get past the sum of those groups, you go from 16% to 17%. At that point, according to Geoffrey Moore in his book Crossing the Chasm, you cross the chasm from the early market to the mainstream market. And that's where you enter the early majority of people who adopt the technology, followed by the late majority, and then the laggards who want nothing to do with this emerging technology, this evil stuff under any circumstances. So let's keep that in mind, that 17% mark as our definition of mainstream adoption for this exercise. How many years do you think it took all of these technologies to reach 17% market penetration or mainstream adoption by our definition? And the starting point, by the way, is I've set it to be the first year of consumer sales. So in other words, when this was available as a product to consumers in a store, on the internet, in a way that is easy for the mass market to approach and buy, and also priced at a viable level. I think that's important to mention. So going from left to right, the technologies represented by these icons are the telephone, the microwave, the radio, the internet, the personal computer, and the tablet. Here are the answers. a wide range of years. So radio actually was the quickest technology to reach mainstream adoption, faster than the internet, faster than the personal computer, and way faster than the landline, which took a very long time, 29 years, to reach mainstream adoption. And I think this is interesting because there's a widespread of technologies here that represent the last 100 years or so of technology adoption in humanity's history. And there is a wide range of years in terms of how long it took to adopt them as well. Virtual reality has taken, or is expected to take, about 28 to 30 years. And the reason you get to that calculation is because if you go as far back as you possibly can, 1993 was the furthest arguable date, in my opinion anyway, that you could see a virtual reality headset on sale in a market at a reasonably or viably priced commercial level for consumers to buy. And so in 2021, that takes us up to what, about 28 years now, nearly, in terms of the amount of time it's taken. Analysts say that right now, according to the surveys that they've done, the virtual reality market is close to 16% market penetration. So at 28 years, we're almost at the cusp, pretty much, of what we consider mainstream adoption according to our initial definition. So as you can see, the rate of adoption, or the length of time it's taken to adopt the technology, although it has taken a while, it is not outside the normal range of how long it's taken us to adopt other technologies in the past as well. And I think this goes to show that humans tend to be pretty impatient, especially in the modern day era of how long it's taken technologies to be adopted. Equally, as soon as technologies are adopted in the mainstream, like the mobile phone, for example, it's very difficult to imagine life without them and how they ever were criticized or thought of as never being able to make it in the first place. To aid with this, the cost of virtual reality systems has also fallen. So back in 2016, you had to shell out $1,500 at least to get a decent VR system and VR experience. In 2020, that has dropped to $299, which has really helped to accelerate the adoption of this technology. The experience, the user experience of setting up the technology has also drastically improved. Now, back in 2016, you had to contend with, and some of you may still have to contend with, if you want a really high-end experience, a load of cables, a load of different sensors, each of which need their own power, a powerful computer, connection for data, connection for the audiovisual system, connection for the power. You need to configure your computer in the right way. You need the right software on there. And you need to have the sensors set up in such a way and calibrated so that they could detect the headset and work. It was a fairly involved task and still remains so to a large extent. Nowadays, however, you have this situation where we can simply pick up a headset, put it on, and we're ready to go. And that improvement in user experience will really help as well with driving that technology forward. In the academic space, the research levels in virtual reality have actually surged massively, particularly in 2016, which seems to be a bit of an inflection point at which the research conducted in virtual reality has just hit a massive uptick. And that's really going to help everyone in society to better understand the pros and cons of these technologies. And finally, today I've been speaking mostly about the consumer world. There is another world that exists for virtual reality, and that is the business world. That is the world that I'm primarily involved in with my work at PwC. And I can tell you that businesses have been using virtual reality for many years now, some since the 90s, the early 2000s, and more so these days. And the reasons are very simple. Virtual reality drives valuable business results, whether it is in learning and development to improve training within an organization, whether it's to reduce costs, to save time, to improve sustainability, to improve our ways of working, create new revenue streams. There are so many business benefits to the technology, and this is a real key reason why the technology is here to stay in the business world, but hopefully you've also seen that it is making massive inroads in the consumer world as well. And for that reason, and for those many reasons, I should say, virtual reality is far from dead. And if anyone wants to chat about it further, I will be here for the next session with speakers in about 40-50 minutes. So you can have a chat with me then. But meanwhile, if you want to check out my website, you want to get in contact, you can find me at jeremydaltonxr.com. Thanks for listening, everyone. See you later.